away the Psylocke, or if they want to just remove the Luna, as removing the Luna removes the potential idle aura to go alongside that Psylocke, with the Snowflake giving the trickle heal effect and allowing the Luna essentially to not have to do anything with the Psylocke and just lock on to one of those Vanguards in play. And speaking about Vanguards, two of them are going to be taken off at the table immediately. LowNine going to be removing the EMEA, and All Business going to be getting to pick up the one-sided Magneto.
Just on the subject of the cap, to jump back for just a moment, as someone who plays a lot of it, I'm only a little sorry, as we will also see Loki with that potential backline dive from Saint Tomoto. You want to remove that regeneration domain that can keep your backliners alive for when that captain, or potentially, if you're looking at some of the hovers here, that Black Panther from diving in.
Yeah, it being Hell's Heaven as well, this is one of the maps that we don't typically get to see the Ultron finding all that much value, so I don't think we'll see a target come through onto him. But we could well see the removal of Adam, or one of those heroes that prop up the Guardian's composition, removing the triple res, given the stall prowess that you have with Domination. And speaking about stall prowess, LowNine are going to be able to have the Captain America stall. They're going to be able to save Saint Tomoto's staple pick before All Business ban it out. All Business prioritize having the one-side Magneto, and now they're going to be able to take away the EMEA from LowNine's Vanguard lineup as well.
And with so many bans before they get a protect, there is a chance that LowNine could try and take away Toot's Venom, which is being hovered as well. In fact, full Spider Team is being hovered. I doubt we'll see that make it out the doors, but it is there as an option. We do know how proficient Toot is on this. There is going to be that one-sided Loki protection, just in case we see some of that backline dive.
Yeah, there's that expected ban onto either the Psylocke or the Luna as well coming through from LowNine. So Tuzi is going to be deterred from picking up his staple hero and is potentially going to have to go on to something like that Star-Lord, as we're waiting to see what All Business are going to decide to target. Looks like Vanguards have been removed. They've been able to force LowNine's Vanguard lineup. Now they're going to start starting to eat into the strategists that they have available. Both the Luna and the Cloak and Dagger have been removed, so even when Saint Tomoto on that Captain America does decide to hit into All Business, the Terror Cape is not going to be there to have that 28% increased damage from all sources to guarantee that the diver finds more value.
One-sided Luna for All Business. That is a huge snipe. Looks like we are going to see LowNine with a potential counter ban here to try and take out the Cloak and Dagger to really, like you said, both these teams focusing onto a lot of these backline characters, a lot of these strategists, and they will finish off with Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, that's going to be Luna Invis then going to be forced for the side of All Business. Closer is probably pretty happy with getting that one though, especially if LowNine want any element of dive coming on through. Having the force physics to just instantly punch away the Captain America and whatever follow-up decides to come through from the Captain America, be it a Iron Fist, or as it looks like we're actually going to be seeing a Psylocke coming out. EMEA has been removed, so we're not going to be able to see the team-up ability, so there's going to be no double Psylocks hitting into that backline, but Psylocke on her own is still going to have a lot of pick potential if you're able to couple it with the Captain America slamming into the backline at the same time. But that does hinge on the fact that you have the space and time to be able to set those rotations up. Any composition with any elements of dive needs to have the space to be able to use it, so it is absolutely paramount that LowNine win this first fight.
Both teams going to be armoring up here with the Penny Rocket team up. That Penny team up, of course, giving 50 armor, a huge boost. Even though you would have two characters in this case, without the armor, it still makes it worth it for the rescue team to be very topped up as we head on into round number 1 of Game 1 in our second series of the day.
Yeah, LowNine, it looks like for the Vanguard lineup, opting for Wolver on the Strange. Slowpo anticipates that he's on the Wolverine. It's going to be up to Pinclone to be able to hit the force physics and keep the Strange intact. Otherwise, the Wolverine, just like in the previous game, is going to be having an absolute field day.
And there it is, immediately brilliant pickup. Can they get out of there? Wolver with the cloak of levitation is going to be backing away, but will get isolated and picked off by Klostar. A massive early pickup for the side of All Business.
Oh. Deja vu, we've been here before. Well, Sloper has been here before. It's not going to be the same value as... No, never mind. He does, at the tail end of the feral grab, find the connection and disrupts the Captain America before he can hit the backline. LowNine have just been entirely derailed in terms of fight plan. They wanted the Cap, they wanted the Psylocke to set up and hit the backline, and All Business just went first and took all of the tempo away from them.
Now they're going to back up a little bit here, look for corners, look for anybody who steps out a little bit early, but LowNine going to take their time, regroup and make their way in. 17% on the board for All Business as they just try to set themselves up, as once again it's a high ground rotation from LowNine that we do see Sloppo will spot, will back away to not get caught out, and tries to dive in for an isolation, but is a little bit alone. Will still manage to get onto that Doctor Strange, but not enough for a finishing blow with the culling turret sieging from the low ground.
True, but they've been able to just take away all the space that LowNine were looking for on this high ground. No poke pressure, no potential opportunity to utilize this Kraken Impact until All Business already. Kraken Impact comes through, but it's at the same time as Sloper is able to find a Wolverine grab, and it's a line closer to board into the Invis boundary, which at the epicenter of it has the Punisher Final Judgment sounding off. Both of the Lunas going to be utilizing the fate of both wards to survive all the way through it, but as the fight swings into the second staging, All Business still has all of the damage to punch through LowNine, and that's going to be another fight to the side of All Business.
Gonski using the Loki clone to steal the Lunar Snow ultimate from All Business, and it still was not enough to survive through that hyper damage engage. There are 0 eliminations so far from the side of LowNine, but they still have time for one more push to try and turn this round. In comes Seitamoto with that freedom charge to try and hold the line into the backline, to try and deal with them. Gets one, gets two, and suddenly LowNine are cleaning house. They're on the board and they have momentum, and they didn't use that many ultimates for it. Only the freedom charge.
Just the one. The freedom charge from Seitamoto gives them the in, and crucially, they're still holding on to the Eye of Agamotto, which is going to play into All Business and how they position into this next fight. Keep your eye on closer though, because if that Strange is too telegraphed by the ultimate, Force Physics is going to be able to come on through and knock the Strange away immediately if he tries to utilize the Cape of Levitation to instigate the Eye of Agamotto setup.
82% on that Kraken Impact, ready for follow-up. Jerky, 73% with that Dance of the Butterfly, but it's getting targeted a little bit as Welsh is in the backline, causing issues. Another Wolverine pickup, but not enough for a finishing blow. High ground with the culling turret. All Business trying to just get some attrition pickups here. Force out the regeneration domain, but it will be the pickup onto Sloppo there. Punish the Wolverine Diamond. Dance of the Butterfly in a tight this space. Jerky with the surprise engage is getting a huge pickup.
Yeah, not enough bodies to be able to soak all of the absorbs. Normally you can live the Dance of the Butterflies if you have enough dance partners to fill out your card, but when there's only 2 of you and one of them is not a Vanguard to be able to sustain all of those dash damages, you're not going to be able to live for long, as immediately we've seen LowNine just swing right back in. Not quite final fight territory, but they're still holding on to a lot of these win conditions as All Business have slowly but surely been banking up ultimates. This is the swing fight. This is the one where everyone invests all or nothing. First out comes the Final Judgment. Invis Banker from Pink Clone is going to be able to try and keep everyone sustained through it, but they have to overlap the Loki regeneration domain at the same time just to keep the players alive through the Final Judgment pressure, and All Business have been able to drain away the resources and take LowNine down before Seitamoto got the freedom to utilize his ultimate and give LowNine another sustainability tool.
Wolf has tried a portal in, but they will not make it in time. They tried to rush it. That is going to be round number 1 for All Business, but LowNine are showing some signs of some very deadly moves hidden below the surface, where they might try and turn this round here on Super Soldier Factory.
Yeah, it would have been so different. That round would have gone entirely different if LowNine had been able to win the first fight.
Yeah.
then the Captain America and the Psylocke would have had all of the setup that they wanted because they found the turnaround once they won a single fight, and then the dive can go through and pick you apart and just hit you with that disruption timing before you're ready to go in. The Wolverine is the engagement for all business. They're having to use so much to get Slowpoke into position. Tuzi, literally the Punisher turret, a lot of the time is being used to just try and suppressing fire the Wolverine engagement safely into LowNine's team, and obviously that becomes far easier to do if you're in control of the space. So again, for LowNine coming into this next fight, it being domination, ultimate charges carrying over, they're in a really good position to win this first fight and set themselves up to take the round.
So now here's the point. Don't get picked again by this Wolverine. See if you can claim the position this time, as both teams going to try and fight over this high ground. Welsh Mania looking for a flank, see if they can find someone. But where is Slobber? Where is that Wolverine? Hovering off to the side to look for an opening, to look for anyone who steps out of position as the Freedom Charge from Sainamoto comes on in, and see you sent to the ground to remove that ult from play.
Yeah, Freedom Charge only applies if you're running in the flag animation. The Wolverine grab has meant that no one from LowNine's been able to get any of that sustainability, but they do have mobility, and they can play split and fragmented, and Slowpoke taking the Captain America out of the fight also to remove the Wolverine from the fight too. So all business lost a lot of their threat level that was stopping LowNine from just committing with the Psylocke and the Winter Soldier.
No one was there for the follow-up. Sainamoto so fast, they were able to rejoin the fight quickly as LowNine, like you said, claim control at this first point, and Woolstock can never finish on the board. Now they are set up. How long are they going to be able to hold as Sainamoto cruises on past, being irritating? Oh, it's a cat fight.
It's the cat fight, but it's not worth it. You know, these teams, it's just a distraction because there's Slowpoke coming through with the actual pick potential. It was a magician's trick, smoke and mirrors. The sleight of hand was masterful, and all business have been able to find themselves onto the point to force out so much resources. Gonspie's God of Mischief has already come into the mix. Closer with the Invis Badger was later, so they've got that second level of sustain, and now LowNine are forced onto the point to stop it from swinging. They're forced to walk into a Wolverine as the Psylocke hits the dance of the butterflies, forcing the fate of both worlds, and it's going to be LowNine having to invest so much into trying to lift the final judgment from all business, but it's finding all of the picks it needs.
Tuzi is melting them here, cleaning out the defenders, and it's immediately into the lava. Don't get staggered, just get yourself taken out so you can rejoin your team and look for the counter push, as all business are starting to catch up on the board. They also blew quite a few ultimates in that fight, especially with the fate of both worlds, but they now have the point, they now have control, and they've shown just how hard it is to kick them off once they're locked in.
They have to worry though, Slowpoke's going to have that last stand. 2-2-2 can also avoid the CC of Wolver's Eye of Agamotto with the Meteor Arm. Tuzi's going to be able to slow them down yet again, buying more time for Slowpoke to get into position and potentially try and grab out one of these players. The Sainamoto actually goes on to the point, trying to force all business into giving up a position on the high ground and contest him, and now he can come in from behind them and pressure the Magneto to force the ultimate out early, clearing the way for him to finally hit the back line.
Last stand onto the Invisible Woman, taking them out so fast. Closter is down, and Wolver is cleaning up. Oh, that is unfortunate. Sent off the edge, but Slowpoke will still get taken down, even at the cost of Crisis. That is still worth it, as LowNine are back on the board. 71-50 in favor of all business, but LowNine in control.
Very much in favor of their ultimates too. They knew that there's a couple of fights afterwards, and they had to hold on to resources to win them out. Cherokee on the Psylocke is going to put pressure onto the Captain America, yet again stalling them out long enough for the Eye of Agamotto setup to come on into the mix. It hits so many on the side of all business, and the cleanup is there. Maelstrom of madness with LowNine's players just piling on top of the concussed players from the side of all business, and that was fight one at the cost of one ultimate. We're now in last fight territory, and LowNine have multiple ultimates that can win the fight for them.
They are really staggering these ultimates perfectly, and it's going to be rough for all business to find the opening, but Final Judgment and Invisible Boundary are on the board. They can go for the big, hefty engagement. Slowpoke trying to find the isolation, and will get a stagger on the Sainamoto, but down to the Butterfly, and the Kraken Impact, both being burned. Not by the Tugs, they get one Kraken Impact, but Tuzi is cleaning up once again, this final judgment living up to its name, as at 97% all business reclaim control, and they still have invisible boundary. LowNine, they have portal, they can regroup when they're ready. Tuzi, run!
The Wolverine is off the map. LowNine now can come on through. Seems to not having all of the confidence to keep his position on at that point. Crisis trying to keep up the pressure. Both of the players popping that Luna ultimate. Everyone trying to live for the next 12 seconds. But closer with the force physics says jerky off of the map, and suddenly all business and numbers up.
They're trying to push on in. Portal is available, but they're in the fight. They can't use it for the reinforcements, so no one can swap to it because it's still here. Wolverine's dropped solo. Has an eye of Okamoto going to be healed up and Moto with the freedom charge. Forney take the counter. 2-2-2. Force physics with the counter push. And now Wolver with the timing. Trying to get onto the back line. And it's LowNine cleaning house in overtime. 99 and 100. We are heading to a round 3 in this first map.
Okay, so when LowNine win the first fight on these rounds, it's close, but they still win the round. Because they're able to play around their ultimate resources, they're able to play around the spacing, and they're able to punish the fact that both the Psylocke and the Wolverine need space and time to be able to set them up. So if you win the fight previously, you're already in position to kick off the fight, as opposed to the team that's rotating into you who've lost. They're going to be actually split. They're not going to be able to stack up. Both of those players are going to be hitting the engagement window at differing times. The Wolverine and the Psylocke a little bit behind. And that means that Slowpo's value on the Wolverine was getting less and less the more fights that all business lost. And now that we head into this first round, now we're off Super Soldier Factory. We don't have a lava pit right next to the point itself, so Slowpo's value with the Wolverine base grab has now diminished even more.
But they're still going to be running it. They're still going to try it. And Toot is going to stay on the Doctor Strange here to try and match the pressure. The Wolver has been delivering here with Welsh Mania off of the cap. Now bringing out the Magneto. They're going a little bit more defensive here.
Yeah, full double shield is going to be able to make it much harder for Chrysalis to be able to hit these Bucky hooks as well. He's got Kraken Impact, but he's not going to be able to use it in this space. All business taking the high ground rotation so that the Bucky can't use his ultimate, getting countered not by an ultimate from the other team, but a ceiling. It's still going to be enough, though, for LowNine to keep up this pressure. Moto on that soldier is just absolutely incorrigible for all business to deal with, and that opens up the fight entirely for Jerky and Crisis to do whatever they want.
Point number 1, once again, first fight won by LowNine, and if any, it's to go. The statistics are anything to go by. This is good news for them, but they still need to keep a hold of this line, especially with Final Judgment, which has proven to be a little bit of a difficulty for them to deal with so far. Is already at the ready, as all business are trying to find an opening and creep on in.
Yeah, LowNine though, they're not going to let All9 utilize those ultimates on the point itself. It's an early hit coming on through. Dance of the Butterflies, opening everything up. Tuzi with the Final Judgment comes on through in the middle of his strategist ultimates to keep himself alive as well as potentially give over that 40% damage boost. Just zip lines over the heads of everyone from LowNine and finds the back cap catching them out as they try and disengage. And Moto is just going to chuck themselves off of the map yet again to make sure that the cap does not get staggered and stalled out from their team so they can hit in fast when all business are down resources.
07's in chat for the Captain America Moto, proving to be a Saint so that he can move in with the team together as they're going to try and create an opening. Wolver, the main bulwark for this setup, as Moto begins the flank, looking for an opening. You can hear that culling turret, trying to weaken them as they open up, but so many ultimates are available for LowNine as in comes the Freedom Charge, immediately getting snowballed. Meteor M for the blow-up onto the backline, but everyone tanks on through as they move on. Im's News taken out, Tuzi is down, Crisis is finding every shot right now. Wolverine's able to get out with that bonus health, but everyone else is melted, and LowNine back on the board.
Yeah, Slowpo held on to that last stand as well. He's holding on to it to counterplay pin clones in this boundary to pick everyone up outside of the healing area of effect. Wolver, though, Ayavagamotto followed up potentially either just by the base Maelstrom or potentially that dance of the butterflies. The Saintomoto goes in, puts a little bit of pressure on the backline, tries to get an information readout of when he can hit, and there it is. The Captain America fearlessly slams into the back, setting up the silence to come up through with the ultimate, and it catches all business before they're ready to peel, and the team gets caught.
They are literally being held at their own door right now as LowNine clean up one more time. They're immediately going to pull back. They don't want to get Khalid out too far. They're going to try and hold in this doorway. But right now, Toot back on the stage, has Ayavagamotto. They could try and portal in because that timer is ticking it down. Tuzi with 15 eliminations so far.
Ooh, it is going to be a portal play. LowNine don't have the Luna to be able to utilize the Absolute Zero and potentially cancel it out. As all business have the ultimates, LowNine wants to go for a close hold and force those ultimates before we saw the fight move over to the point itself, but the portal is going to be able to stop that entirely. Ayavagamotto comes on through, catches both of the strategists on the side of LowNine, but Pinklin is still able to set up the Invis boundary in time. It's not going to be enough to save Gonski, though, who was able to find the copy of the Luna with the God of Mischief, but doesn't manage to complete the animation of the fate of both worlds. And LowNine now down a low number of that sustainability are at danger if this fight goes on too long. Freedom Charge as that default third strategist ultimate coming on through, trying to give them the potential of finding these picks, but all business have the numbers, have the Punisher, and have so much pressure as it's now down to Wolver on this Strange and Saintomoto on the Captain America to keep LowNine in play. They've been able to deal with the individual players of all business. The Freedom Charge comes through. Welshmania tries to hold on long enough for his team to regroup. Is it going to be enough? Because Jerky can be the one that just shuts this fight down entirely.
Drops low, Welshmania forced to retreat. Saintomoto is keeping this on the overtime, 99% for LowNine. Dance at the butterfly into the backline. 1, 2, 3, quadruple with the Star-Lord to join in. Slowpo is nowhere near. They're on the Iron Man, but they're in the sky. And LowNine from behind take the 2-1 on map 1 and take the lead in this series.
Oh my goodness, just like such good synergy. The timings that they had, the tempo change-ups as well that they had were all business, but that they had a little bit longer to organize themselves as they were going through those chokes to make sure that everyone was set up, because, you know, when you're walking back into these fights, there's a number of things that you have to do, right? You have to ult-track your opponents, you have to look at the ultimates that you yourselves have, you then have to look at both of those two informations that you've gathered and come up with a fight plan. But the thing about Disruption is that it doesn't care about the timings you want to stick to. It plays entirely to the beat of its own drum, and a lot of the time it plays interruptive to make sure that it hits at the worst possible moment for you to deal with. And Saintomoto on that Captain America was doing such a good job of just scouting, of reading when all business were mid-regroup, of when one of their players went a little bit too far forward, a little bit too near or further away from their own spawn, too far away from the back line, and that opened up the fight for the Psylocke to be able to come on through. And Jerky had just such excellent timings to pair up with Saintomoto that I would be very surprised if the Captain America makes it into the next map.
I would completely agree. That was so scary, so hard to deal with. But another character who we kind of do got to point out here, while Tozy did, unsurprisingly, because we've seen just how insane they are, get the most final hits, they were tied by Wolver on this Doctor Strange. They were constantly in the right place at the right time. They were really patient with their ultimate and knew exactly when to use it for maximum effect. Maelstrom of Madnesses on cooldown to make sure they got the big blow-ups. And it's tough to deal with when you have that bigger pressure and also a reinforcement with the portal when it is needed.
I mean, it's really tough to play Doctor Strange when the enemy team have a Wolverine.
Yup.
So you can again see, like, it was so paramount for LowNine to cut off off that opening phase, that mid-rotation stage coming on through from All Business's end, because if they're rotating, Slowpoke and the Wolverine isn't in position to already look for a grab onto one of those Vanguards. They had such a good read of the timings that they had to come in with, even here in the mid-fight, where everyone is just looking, having to deal with the Captain America diving in. Crisis is utilizing it as an opportunity to come on through with the Kraken Impact, and the Kraken Impact doesn't find the picks that it's looking for, but it does the damage. Captain America on his own doesn't do enough damage to translate into finding the picks, but you layer on top of that Kraken Impact and then just the overall damage numbers that Winter Soldier can do in the neutral, where you're able to get those auto reloads if you're landing your abilities, and no one's even really looking his way, so no one's anticipating things like that hook coming in, which is going to be able to connect onto multiple bodies, pull them out of positions multiple times. It was just continuous pressure on every single angle from every potential space, and All Business had a composition that just was not able to hold out. They could not fortify through the siege that they were put under every single time they had to rotate into a retake.
The Punisher did some really good damage. We talked about it. We talked about how good Tuzi is, but you, with the overwhelming damage output of that Winter Soldier, not being able to take them out, and then Jerky sneaking into the backline, dancing the butterfly to just finish everyone off. You're talking about it. They time it well. They had the engages, and once they got past that initial Wolverine issue, they were able to turn it round. How will All Business adjust? Will LowNine be able to clean this up and take the win? We'll be finding out, but first, we're heading to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with map number 2.
Welcome back, everybody, to Marvel Rivals Ignite EMEA, where Tetcha and I have the absolute pleasure of getting to bring you the closest series so far that this region has seen. As Tetcha, LowNine, and All Business were the favorites touted headed into this matchup, but LowNine, with a turnaround, being able to deal and dispatch with the Wolverine strategies, were able to find the comeback on Hell's Heaven and head into Game 2 one map up.
The invited team of All Business, like you say, starting off with the momentum, but LowNine turning it round, bringing it back, and were able to claim that first lead. And LowNine, they are the team that had to come through with qualifier number 2 in order to find their spot. They got here by beating Schmungus, one of the favorites in the tournament, and now they're already staking their claim versus the 3rd place MRC Season 1 team.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be seeing a couple of adaptations coming on through from the side of All Business in terms of those bans. If you're LowNine, though, you're happy. You've shown that you can let the Wolverine through, you can adapt around it, and you can win around it. Even the Punisher coming out from the side of All Business, Punisher being a very staple pick that we're seeing in the duelist role, but all of the damage that he brings to the table. If Magneto gets banned out as well in the advanced ban pick system, then you don't have to worry about Meteor M just fully shutting down the Final Judgment and also turning it around on your team if you're all clustered under the Punisher to try and let him live. The problem about the Punisher, though, is that he's really, really strong when you have control of that space, and that was the narrative that we had threaded throughout Hell's Heaven. When the Wolverine and the Punisher had the space, they were winning, but the second that LowNine were able to start taking chunks of that space away, even when they played into retake, utilizing the Captain America and the Psylocke to slowly chip away at all of the corners and angles and fully monopolize the full aspect of the map, they were really able to overwhelm All Business. So headed into game number 2, I'm hoping that we're going to get to see the Captain America and the Psylocke, if not removed entirely, at least significantly weakened.
And to go back into some of the statistics in their qualifying match that we talked about with Schmungus, just to show how scary this Captain America from Saitomoto is, they went down 1 time in the first game. It was then immediately banned, and they swapped to Mag and won anyway. It is terrifying. It's resulted in bans before. Will All Business be following that trend?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an adaptation game between these two teams, as there was some really major highlights coming on from Hell's Heaven, right? Every single person on every single team had some insane moments. We got some amazing Eye of Agamotto plays coming on through from Wolver. We got to see the force physics as well, the knockback coming on through from that Invis woman that was talked about in the interview, where it was essentially said, like, yeah, sometimes the Invis woman doesn't really hit the force physics, so we don't have to worry about that traditional counter coming on out. But we did indeed get to see things like the force physics being able to knock back the Eye of Agamotto, to shave down and nullify some of its impact, as well as a Sloppo at the beginning, right, where he was able to come on through with that first fight win, finding some amazing feral grabs onto the Vanguard line from LowNine. It was just a matter of LowNine being able to adapt to everything that was happening and throw out so many different solutions, all business being a little bit further behind in that department. Going to have to see a little bit more flexibility in speed as well come through from their side as the series progresses.
And we'll see exactly how they do decide to adjust, how they do decide to change it up if they need to, as we're heading into map number 2. Let's see where we are heading for this next matchup and what the bans will be. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am so excited to see like these ban changes coming out into the mix. Like surely the Captain America or the Psylocke is going to just get removed from the table. I mean, Luna is a given. You have to remove Idol Aura. That Snowflake has to go to just give that Psylocke a little bit more survivability when she hits the back line. But given the fact that all business immediately takes Antomoto's Captain America out, yeah, that's the change-up that we expected to see.
Yeah, immediately banned out 07s in chat for Cap, and immediately a protection onto the Magneto with the Emma Frost taken away. They don't want that extra protection that Bulwark can offer. As Loki, it was extremely effective for LowNine. They want to again deny it from all business and get their own hands on the Emma, one-sided Emma.
Yeah, one-sided Emma, so a lot of just peel potential if there is any form of dive is going to be on the side of LowNine, plus aggressive plays. If you have charge, you're going to be able to play incredibly aggressive in terms of burst windows and maneuvering forward. No surprises. All business, target ban one specific player. LowNine show that anything you can do, we can do it just the same. 2Z Psylocke gets taken off of the table yet again as LowNine managed to secure Luna Snow as a save. Can all business manage to lock her in too, or is it going to be a one-sided strategist pick as well?
Counterban onto the Psylocke. While we do have that Luna, we will not have the double fate of both worlds with the God of Mischief from Loki, as it was stolen away. And yeah, it sneaks all the way through. We will see all business lock in the Luna as you predicted, leaving one last ban for LowNine. What else is scary?
Ooh.
That is a reasonable ban.
That is a very reasonable ban coming out into the mix. The Wolverine is taken off of the table too. Wondered whether or not we were going to see a target ban go out onto the strategists. The problem is that Cloak and Dagger and Invis Woman are both incredibly viable. So you kind of want to target the duelist, which is potentially going to be causing you some issues. Taking Wolverine out as well as that Psylocke is going to be very, very strong. You're not going to have to worry about a lot of those flank plays coming on for even if you don't manage to secure the Emma yourself.
The torch being hovered for 2Z. It's a scary character. It did, of course, get nerfed in this season, but it still has extreme levels of effectiveness for damage output and for a little bit of crowd control as well with that knockback of the Flaming Meteor as we head in to Yggdrasil Path for our second map.
Well, even more important for the Torch is the fact that they were able to get the Invis Woman through the picks and bans. So they will have the Guardian Shield, and more importantly, they will have the Fantastic Force team up, which is going to be able to give that Torch an extra level of survivability if they decide to play into it, as we're going to be seeing. Everyone just armoring up there with the Penny and Rocket team up. It's going to be Saint Moto on the Venom, a pick that we very much expected to see, and a major reason behind that Emma ban coming on out from the side of all business. No diamond form to be able to grab when the Venom decides to hit the dive.
We will see all business on the attack here, pushing back Crisis already on that Punisher. As Slowpoke going to be mirroring from the other side, is trying to just focus down onto Wolver, who is leading the front line for this defense. And Saitomoto has to back away. What a swing! Finds Cap in the backline, tries to punish him.
Yeah, but the Pyro Prison from Tuesday is just shutting down space entirely. A single pick hasn't come through from either side until just now. It's going to be on the side of all business. But look at the amount of space that the attackers have already been able to secure, denying any follow-up of the dive, forcing Saitomoto into having to back off to just get so much stabilizing from his backline. And it means that the space for the duelist as well as Jerky on this Ultron was so minimal that Slowpoke had so much to work with. He's already got a final judgment after first fight.
And they are going to try and hold one more time. As you can see, Saitomoto trying to make their way through the door, which is currently being held by Tuzi on this opening in the close-knit area. Saitomoto diving in, gets melted. No super resilience here, but it will not even buy time for Portal on the reinforce.
Yeah, that Terror Cape coming on through from Nos was insane. Just immediately nails onto Saitomoto. 28% increased damage from all sources. The Venom is the only one. LowNine expected him to live long enough for Wolver's Strange Portal to come on first, and now they've burned that cooldown as well. As Saitomoto understands, Venom's not going to be able to work. You can't do anything into the Torch. You can't do anything into the Terror Cape. It's time to swap, and out comes the Emma instead.
Making their way forward, Wolver back on this. Doctor Strange trying to get that charge up, and here comes that final judgment into the rage of Ultra. Juggy playing low so they can get the protection from that fate of both worlds from Gonski, but it's not going to be enough to protect Pinkload, who is taken down as Supernova to try and punish him for being grouped up. Meteor trying to dive onto the backline will be enough to take out Crisis, and it does look like all business are once again going to find the opening.
Yeah, and all business with the snowball potential still having the space to keep Tuzi in the air as well. LowNine, since they didn't have that fight to begin with, haven't been able to put pressure onto the Flyers before the fight starts, and all business have so much momentum behind them. LowNine do have the ultimates though, as the Terror Cape is going to make it a little bit harder. They have to wait out the duration of it before they commit into this retake. It's going to be off of the back of Fate of Beaufort's final judgment, also going to be invested, but there's no opportunity to go for the damage boost. Not needed. Finally, LowNine and Sabako business stalling out the card and giving themselves the poke space that they desperately need to take the torch down.
3.5 minutes remain for all business to try and create an opening. They have Welsh Mania on that Captain America on the flanks, trying to create anything they can. Jerky in the sky is keeping everyone topped up, and they have Psionic Seduction and the Eye of Okamoto. They, in theory, have all the tools needed for a hold here, but all business are flanking. They're sieging in from above, but here's the trigger getting pulled. Psionic Seduction to try and pull them back in with the Rage of Ultron will be enough to melt through to toot.
Wait a minute. There's a cat amongst the pigeons. Welsh Mania. I saw you. There's a Captain America all the way behind. Oh, this is going to be horrible for LowNine. Their attention is about to be divided in half, as there's going to be a cap with Freedom Charge threatening a back cap when everyone from the side of all business want to walk forward. In fact, you can see the silhouette just there as Welsh Mania just puts a little bit of pressure in. All business is going to be committing to this fight. Eternal Bond going to be carpeting their way forward so they can survive that potential pressure. Wolver had been set up for an Eye of Agamotto, doesn't get the opportunity to use it, and Slowpoke with the final judgment is going to be the thing that all business have to just brute force their way through B.
And Welsh Mania putting themselves at risk with this backline dive with the Freedom Charge, but the point is to keep everyone here, prevent portals, prevent anyone from stopping that point number 2 from being captured, as we will see a hold, not a hold here for LowNine. All business pushing it on through, grab the second point, and they've got plenty of time left. A reset on the timer, back to 3.5 minutes.
Supernova in the hands of 2Z2. No Magneto, no pesky Meteor M to be able to absorb 75% of it. They do have to be wary though, as LowNine with triple strategists are going to have a lot of defensive utilities coming out into the mix. Eye of Agamotto from Wolver connects onto 3. Nost is not able to phase it with the cape, and that is going to result in all business losing all of their back line. Back to the drawing board, back to respawn they go, and now they've lost all of the snowball momentum for 2Z to use the Supernova.
Now look at the ultimate economy here. We've got Gonski, Crisis, and Pineclone already ready with those ultimates, whereas All Business, they're only just charging up now. Supernova going to get burned early for a setup. They know Slowpo will have their own ultimate to push on in if they can find the opening to capitalize. Crisis trying to bet on through, but it's just a simple strategy of walking around the corner for the counter.
Tuzi doing a very good job of utilizing that Supernova just to put pause on the momentum that LowNine wanted to take away from that attacker side. Now they get to answer back in with their own final judgment. Fate of both worlds is going to try and get everyone from LowNine safely disengaged away from that Punisher ultimate. Once it's done, they will still have sustain. It lasts longer than the Punishers, and now they can answer back. The Closer was holding on to theirs. Rage of Ultron matches up against the dance floor. Jerky will be able to keep everyone alive, but All Business have been able to put themselves onto the card, and it's going to force LowNine into burning a lot more of their ultimates than they would rather.
I am Agamotto to try and capitalize. Down goes Closers. Nos is down. That's all of the healing. And while Welsh Media is putting some pressure on the backline, the rest of their team is getting taken down one by one. Welsh Media getting chased all the way back. Tuzi was able to escape, but the point is held. LowNine being very patient there. They waited out for the end of that Fate of Both Worlds to drop the Psionic Seduction, pulling everyone in and shutting down this push once again.
This next fight is a coin flip. It's the rock, paper, scissors game. Final judgment, Meteor M. Can Crisis manage to overcome and overload the Meteor before Tutu finds a position to throw it? Supernova is going to open up from Tuzi. All Business getting into position already. Eternal Bomb gets forced. Crisis wants to take advantage of that sustainability. Goes in with the final judgment. Tutu's got the Meteor, but he's not able to throw it in time. And Crisis gets one, gets two, and LowNine will be able to hold on to the space yet again.
With less than a minute to go, All Business may have one, maybe two of their fast more pushes left in them. Jerky has that Rage of Ultron, Fate of Both Worlds available for Pineclone. They have the tools they need to hold a main engage, but it's up to Slowpo to time this ultimate well. If they can force any of these defensive ultimates out early, as they go for a Rage of Ultron aggressively to try and stagger them, to try and prevent them from pushing on to the point.
Yeah, this is an incredibly aggressive Rage of Ultron, which has been able to deny All Business from pushing temporarily. Once it's done, though, All Business get down to business. Out comes the Freedom Charge onto the point. Fate of Both Worlds from Pineclone's end, as everyone from LowNine tries to just match the sustainability available for both teams, but All Business have more ultimates to just push in with, and it's going to be that Invis boundary coming on for cementing the health pools, making sure that Tuzi, Slowpo, and Tutu can hold their positions, finally get the damage to be able to break through this defender's line. They've got another fight, another two potentially if the stall is good from LowNine, though.
Ultimate's not very charged yet. Wolver just about to have Ayamokomoto. Gonski just a bit around the corner. That'll charge during the fight as Supernova to try and close off the entrances. The card moving forward. Saitomoto having to lead the charge. Media M to try and burst on through, prevent that Fate of Both Worlds, that Eternal Bond from getting the burst. Ayamokomoto pushed back there as they can't land the stuns. So it's all about who can take this fight. Saitomoto has tried once again to time this Psionic Seduction well to hold the line, give time for their team to respawn, get any delays they can, as All Business, no one's going down, and they are staggering LowNine one by one, cleaning out Crisis pushed back, and no one to touch the card. That is going to be the triple cap for All Business.
Yeah, Crisis crucially does not manage to get that last little bit of percentage needed to get the final judgment before anyone from the side of All Business has not got any strategist ultimates to come on through. There's a very small window of opportunity, and All Business find the means of just slamming it immediately shut. Really good target focus comes on through to just take down Gonski before the fight can properly spiral away from them, as that Cloak and Dagger surviving would have meant everyone from LowNine anchoring onto that point, trying to stall it out for the Punisher to build the ultimate, would have been receiving not just the primary heal, because there's an 8-meter AoE radius attached to those Light Force daggers. If you'd also had the damage amplifier, or rather the heal amplifier, coming on off from the Eternal Veil, everyone would have been far tankier as well.
It would have been so hard to take them out, but like you say, they isolate the target, they find exactly who they need to do, identified and picked off. In the stats, Tuzi is showing it with 12 final hits so far on this Human Torch, showing that even with the nerfs, it is still viable and incredibly scary. And Welsh Mania has been doing a good job trying to put the fear into Saint Amoto and show that they are not the only cap on the block.
Yeah, Toot as well with this Magneto is really putting the pressure into Crisis, utilizing these final judgments. A lot of the time we're seeing the Punisher invest the ultimate, trying to take advantage of the survivability that is afforded to him off of the back of Eternal Bond coming on through from Gonski, but it's read perfectly by the Magneto a lot of the time, and it's going to be a little bit of poke pressure just coming on through. LowNine trying to close up the distance to that first corner, but you can see the amount of damage that Wolverine the Strange is taking, just immediately going down to half with the poke pressure coming out from this torch.
Welsh Mania is punished for trying to dive the backline this time. We can see the Jerky has moved to the Wolverine. Is trying to find an isolation. Wolver is sniped, but they're trying to even snipe Tuzi out of the sky here. They're really putting pressure onto this torch because it is proving to be one of the bigger problems.
Yeah, and the Punisher too is just melting down that Guardian shield before it can give that healing radius over to the torch, as Jerky on this Wolverine has been incredibly problematic. LowNine, yet again, just the way we saw in Series 1, throw a Wolverine into the mix and all business. When one person gets grabbed, they're just not ready for it. They all back off, and without that space, they don't have the attention diversion to keep the torch safely in play from that pressure coming out from this Punisher, and off of the back of that portal block too. That's not going to be a recontest coming on out from the side of all business.
That was clean from LowNine, pushing it on in so quickly, and now they're making their way on towards point number 2. You can see the Pirate Prison coming out from Tuzi, again trying to open up any kind of opportunity, as we do see Slowpo with that final judgment once again, ready to see if they can get a quick blow-up as Jerky tries to find him, but will get punished for it, pun intended.
Yeah, Mag Cannon comes on out from the end of Toot, and the Wolverine gets taken down. Slowpo just sounds off the primary against the Diamond Form coming on out from the Emma, as LowNine have to just disengage entirely. Without that Wolverine up for grabs, they don't have any level of threat to keep the Vanguards from all business from getting aggressive and holding their positions, as we're going to be seeing a lot of ultimates invested. All business know that the engagement's going to primarily come from the Strange. They want to keep Wolver as low as possible, as it's going to be the Punisher just taken down immediately from the opposing final judgment.
Slowpo pushing on in, capitalizing off the media rev to burst through the initial defenses and then aiming them down, cleaning out all of the defenders here. Jerky is trying to chase them, but the kiting is insane, and they're gonna stagger. That's huge.
Oh no, it's so far away from the map as well. All the way you have to go. And LowNine are relying on the Eye of Agamotto to open up this next fight, to be able to find the pick even through the invis boundary off of the back of that Maelstrom of Madness coming on through. And because you're waiting for your Strange to regroup, Jerky on the Wolverine is not getting any of the space to maneuver around. You can even actually see Tuzi on that torch is just leaving AoE markers to try and get the accuracy tick to keep a track of where the Wolverine is deciding to just try and flank out.
Sieging in from above Pyro Prison once again to zone them out on the assault. You can see Welsh Mania is getting tracked by Crisis, but Saint Amoto taking a lot of damage. In comes Welsh Mania into the backline. They turn around, freeze them. Is enough for the blow-up, but they're very split. What is happening? Amoto gets frozen. Invisible boundary has to be burned, and here comes the counter engage from all business.
Yeah, the invis boundary would have potentially been burst through with that Maelstrom, but the freeze from closer off of Absolute Zero stops the Strange from following up, and LowNine have to rely on Jerky on this Wolverine instead. Last Stand comes into play, grabs everyone outside of that invis ultimate, and finally LowNine have been able to punch for that early hold from all business. They still have to deal with another fight though, as Welsh Mania gets ready, dives into the back line. At the same time, Tuzi commits the supernova. It's going to be Eternal Bond from Gonski, keeping everyone from the side of LowNine up and alive, as Crisis with the final judgment dispatches the individual members from all businesses. They throw themselves onto point.
and they just don't have enough damage to burst through the protection that Slowpo is getting. And once again, when the Punishers trade ult, it is Slowpo who comes out on top. That's going to be another hold with 2 minutes to go. Saitomono tries to delay, tries to get someone, and they will get close door, but it is still going to be a one fight for All Business as they move back into the defensive positions up to the high ground, making sure that they can get the right angles. As LowNine, they got staggered a bit. They have to regroup, re-wait, and it looks like they might be going for a re-strat with the portal here.
Yeah, they can't give All Business poke window. They're coming in with ultimate advantage, but that goes out of the window if they just get stalled out by 2Z pressuring them before they can walk through the doorway. Gonski with the Terror Cape is going to be able to apply the vulnerability to the members of All Business, forcing out that invis boundary onto the point itself, and 2Z still able to find the pick. Gonski goes down before Eternal Bond can come through. It was a fast push from LowNine, but All Business have the turnaround.
Jerky tried to get the blow. I've got a double elimination here, but is just zoned away. No one can get onto Tuzi as it's another hold with 1 minute to go. All Business are locked in right now, and LowNine with no more portal. It is a run it in and try to burst in the last minute of the game. 72% on that Fate of Both Worlds, 82 on that Eternal Bond. These are the tools they need.
The gauntlet is being put into LowNine having to run it right now. The Guardian Shield out onto the Punisher turret just to slow down the approach. And it's going to have to be an aggressive play yet again. Welshmania already a quarter HP, but stalls LowNine's push, forces Eternal Bond out before we hit overtime. One strategist ultimate burned out, and All Business are still holding onto the ultimates. They disengage, they wait it out, and they answer back into the fight with Supernova to force the second. LowNine need to win the fight immediately, because if it goes too long, All Business are the ones in the driver's seat.
Burst through the Fate of Both Worlds. LowNine have lost all of their healing. Jerky is melted. Saitomono is trying to delay with Wolver, but they have no portal, no healing, and they are going to be melted. All Business are going to even up the score in this game number 2. There is nothing that LowNine can do.
We've seen that Tuzi, even if you take the Psylocke away from him, that torch is still problematic, and this is what we expect to see at this level, right? These teams, they come in with a strategy at the beginning. They think this is going to be our fight plan. Their opponent is able to read it out and adapt around it, and they win that map, and then we go to another map afterwards, and they come in with something entirely different, and now you have to figure out an entirely new solution. And it looked for a little bit of time, especially on A, that the solution would be Crisis on that Punisher being able to keep up the pressure onto 2Z. But the second that we bled into B, and everyone on the side of All Business had so much more cover to be able to play around with and could take advantage of the poke angles that they had before the fight opened up, just burning away those resources, making it that Crisis did not have the confidence of holding his angle, of challenging the torch. Well, you're going to see it here from the replay. 2Z MVP, and a lot of this is just going to be torch gameplay.
24 final hits, 14k more damage than literally anyone else on the opposing team. This was 2Z's game. They had control, and LowNine, while I did enjoy the swap to Wolverine and it did almost save them a couple times, they just weren't able to deal with Johnny Storm in the sky. And All Business are taking us to our first game number 3 of EMEA.
Yeah, I love the Wolverine pick just to be able to crack through A, because A is notoriously difficult. It's time consuming. You have to approach as an attacking team that first corner very, very carefully. It's a right-hand peek. It's going to be defenders favored. If they've got a torch as well as a Punisher, they've got a really good crossfire set up, as they can play either on the left high ground or they can play on the right side around the cover, and they're going to have continuous pressure to just chip you down before the fight even begins. Even at the beginning, before Jerky found that opportunity to go in on the Wolverine, we were following along with Wolver on the Strange, and we saw him, and literally under 2 seconds later, his HP is practically into the floor. He's on 25%, and he's just having to disengage entirely because there's nothing that the Strange can do into a torch, into a Punisher. Your shield is going to break immediately. So I think it's really, really smart to utilize the Wolverine to take away the space for the torch, for the Punisher, to burn you out of time bank back on A, but when we head into B and the defenders have the opportunity of winning a singular fight, and again drawing out that distance between yourselves and the attacking team, and also scouting out where the Wolverine is coming from, or potentially, as we saw from All Business, sending Welsh Mania on the Captain America to hit into that backline first before the Wolverine was set up. Jerky never got that opportunity to look for the engagement, to divert resources away, and the Wolverine fell a little bit flat.
This was a little bit of a less aggressive Captain America than we saw in game number 1, because they were choosing these moments, like you say, on the scouting missions, on the harass missions, the second the trigger was pulled every single time, just constantly harassing, but only when appropriate. And using that torch, like you said, for scouting is a stroke of genius. You're already in the air, you've got a great view, you've already got that tick damage to try and isolate them. It is fantastic. Will LowNine be able to adjust to deal with this? We'll have to find out as we are heading into our break. When we come back, it will be time for map number 3, and we will find out who moves on to play in the next round. We got a map 3! We are heading in. I am still Tetcher. This is still Got Moxie, and we are preparing for the third map between All Business and LowNine. All Business getting themselves back into it.
Yeah, Tuzi's torch performance, oh my goodness, what a masterclass coming on through from him. And I'm sure we're going to now be seeing the adaptations as we head into game number 3, because, you know, game 1 went the way of LowNine, so it was All Business's turn to have to adapt, just instantly banning out the Captain America. The problem for LowNine is, what hero do you try and ban Tuzi out of? We've seen that they need to ban the Psylocke. They've banned the Psylocke out by both games, so they want nothing to do with that particular hero pick. But do they try and take the torch out of the equation? Because if you then have to spend 2 bans on 1 player, it opens up the field of another role, so you lose control of having maybe the better Vanguard lineup or the potential better strategist lineup.
They could go for any strategist lineup they want if they keep burning all of those bads, or they start, sorry, burning all of those bads onto the Tuzi damage dealer here. As we are 1-1, we have 1 map to go. It is a best of 3. Winner keeps going in the upper bracket. Loser will be down in the lower bracket, which means they still have a shot at earning their spot in the playoffs. But the pressure is on. This is where we separate the wheat from the chaff, and we find out who has what it takes to play in these high-tension games.
Yeah, this is a big surprise as well, given the fact that All Business are here off of their performance. LowNine was one of our teams that had to push through the qualifying rounds, as it's going to be Captain America. Okay, Captain America is still instantly banned for All Business. They do not want Saint Tomoto on that pick, and yet again, LowNine are going to be taking the Magneto out of the mix, as well as that Loki. So it does look like this is the traditional ban cycle coming on through from this team. Where do they take this save, though? What are they going to prioritize thinking is having the most issue? Is it going to be a one-sided Magneto play that they go for to potentially try and shut down the torch coming on out from Tuzi, so that you can utilize that Meteor M and absorb a chunk of that supernova? We didn't get to see it in the last round, but this time around, LowNine are going to be saving the mag so they can set it up instead.
We're seeing so many times that these teams go for the one-sided Emma versus the one-sided Magneto. As we see, Loki's on both sides getting taken away, and LowNine, they do still ban out, as you predicted, that Psylocke, but that still leaves the torch up.
Yes, Torch is still going to be around, and as we've talked about, I feel like LowNine, with the Magneto in play, probably think that they're going to be better equipped to deal with it, as it is going to be, you know, a flying character as long as there isn't cover to play around, and also the amount of resources that All Business are going to have to put in is going to deplete resources from the other side. Punisher being taken off of the table, though, for LowNine's availability is going to be very problematic indeed, because the Punisher, when we followed their POV of Crisis on point A for that Yggdrasil attack, was the main unit that was dealing with the torch in the neutral.
And while the torch is available, they're looking at banning out the Wolverine instead. There are some great spots on this map where Wolverine can flank, and that will be the ban. Torch is open. Punisher, now one of the big counters to Groot play. It's one of the big counters to the torch, being a hit scan character, is taken away, meaning Crisis is kind of forced here to move onto the Winter Soldier. Can at least use the Tainted Voltage to try and take the torch out of the sky. It's a pretty good shot in general, and just trying to target people down, and Jerky is allowed once again back onto Psylocke.
Yeah, and it's going to be a Psylocke with a Lunar Snow for Gonski. So they are going to be able to have the idle aura of that snowflake going down onto the Psylocke, and they're also not really running another hero that would potentially take that away. Sometimes when we see Ultron being played, he's the one that actually receives the aura. Other times in terms of like dive units, you would have maybe your Magic would be receiving it. Panther if you had it into play, and I mean, we do have to say Panther because there's a potential that we see Panther, not in this match, but maybe a little bit later when Tanuki is playing in some of his rounds. Keep your eye on that one. He is known for picking up that hero. As no surprises, it is going to be all business on the attack. Out comes the Overdrive and the Armor Nests for that Penny and Rocket team up. This is not going to actually see gameplay. This is just so everyone can pack their lunches and make sure that their health pool is as extended as possible, as Tuzi on that torch is going to be the main target of focus if everyone on the side of LowNine remembers what went down on Yggdrasil before.
And watch this, they're portaling in. Slowpoke did not get their armor. They're not portaling for the hard engage here. They're portaling for Slowpoke to set up an artillery here from above to try and punish them from behind with the culling turret, and with Strange through the portal to zone away to make sure the Punisher gets free reign, and that is opening up the point extremely. 2 people on there, and it's starting to charge up for all business, taking out Satamoto. They have claimed all the space here.
Oh, huge read comes out from All Business. They anticipate LowNine being pushed up to put as much pressure on the torch as possible when he's coming out of spawn. And like you said, go for the TP turret gameplay, which opens up the fight, allows Tuzi to close up the distance, and LowNine now get just shoved into these tiny little hallways where they have to just stack out, and it opens them into having so much spread damage coming in through from both the Punisher and the torch even before ultimates come into play. Since that last fight was so one-sided, everyone having to back on off, no one getting to trade damages, they weren't able to build a strategist ultimate in that teleport play game time, which meant that they didn't have one to play into the retake, and now headed into B. All Business are the ones with all of the tools in the belt and all of the space. Crisis is going to have to opt for the Hela, so now he's going to have to get the fix, and this time around Tuzi is going to be starting to get that Guardian Shield now that there's a hit scan in play that can potentially take the torch down.
Final Judgment, the Invisible Boundary going to be burned by All Business very early. Pinclone with the immediate Invisible Boundary to make sure that they can try and sustain on through. Fate of Both Worlds has to be used. Gonski would have been blown up otherwise. That is a huge tool to stagger at the same time as that Invisible Boundary, which means Supernova is about to be completely uncontested once that Fate of Both Worlds expires. Crisis already down. Jerky looking for the turnaround. Satamoto will get close star, and somehow through the Supernova they lose Crisis and Pinclone. Gonski is down, but they're still picking up at least a couple eliminations. Can Jerky get onto the point? No, they're being targeted down by Tuzi, but they will not be able to hold this car.
Yeah, Tuzi still up, still running, and getting to play the one-way angle above the tour frame too, so he can keep up that pressure before anyone on the side of LowNine can see him. Look at poor Wolver on this Strange. All he can do is hold up the shield, and the second that it breaks, that torch pressure is just absolutely immense. And off of the back of that one, Welshmania just gets a free light into the entire team, as they've just been able to get so much space by denying LowNine the ability to take a single fight.
Tuzi is doing so much right now. We wanted to see how LowNine adjusted, and so far they do seem to be struggling. The Hela is trying to land the shots, but they just don't seem to be touched right now. Jerky's on the flank trying to get the flops, but the cart keeps moving. They just can't find the space right now.
Yeah, Jerky has to be the one to step up to the plate since the Heller is getting just continuously picked, but the Psylocke is getting immediately focused down the second that she shows up, trying to take that torch out of the mix. And in the meantime, Tuzi's just getting every single resource in the world. He is yet to go down a single time on this map so far, as Crisis has to swap onto the Winter Soldier, but LowNine are down to the last fight. All business and all of the ultimates, and none of the space for the defenders to even be able to touch. That was one of the fastest central pucks we've ever seen. That was not multiple fights. That was the one fight at the finish line of B, and then it was just continuous pressure turned up more and more and more by Tuzi and Welshmania, just forcing LowNine to back away until eventually they ran out of space to give.
That car barely stopped moving at all. It seemed to stop maybe during the door animations. It's hard to tell. They were going so fast. As right now, we are seeing the adjustment. Jerky is like, nope, I'm done with this. Let's fight fire with fire. As they are looking at the Human Torch of their own. Saitomoto's on the Venom. You want to dive us that hard in the backline? It is time for revenge, because that's what was happening so many times. We saw Gonski and Pinklone and Jerky just get taken out. Crisis getting taken out. It was always just the Human Torch just being able to shoot over the front line, and Welshmania being a menace on cap as well, just diving constantly.
Yeah, I don't know how impactful this Venom is going to be against the Amber, though, as Tuta has been able to secure that one. What it will do is give another avenue of approach for the side of LowNine, which does not get tied to the teleporter cooldown. As Venom, you can actually go to the right side and swing through, so just the way that we saw All Business try and open up the space with a teleport, forcing the swivel of attention from the defenders, which then opened up the space for the frontline core to walk forward. We could well see Saitomoto try and do the same, but it looks like they're going for a little bit of a slower burn. Saitomoto's not going all the way to the right, it's all the way to the left instead, to be able to cut across and take away the high ground.
Jerky trying to siege the lower ground people, but will look to duel Tuzi if they find the opening, especially if they can zone away Snotst. They pushing on in. Tuzi diving deep, flaming media into the backline. They get them. Jerky is down by Closar, and Tuzi is once again asserting dominance on this Johnny Storm. They're zoning them out, sending them right back through that gate.
Yeah, this Venom, they're trying to have the burst damage potential, sending the torch alongside it, but the Psylocke wasn't able to commit at the same time. And also, this is something that we talked about, right? That Luna resource, the Idol Aura, is being split right now between the Psylocke and the torch, which is eating in, is cannibalizing their sustainability when the dive essentially decides to go for that full commitment. Tuzi, in the meantime, he's the only one that needs the Idol Aura. He's getting all of these resources, and he gets all of the confidence to hold the space.
They're still going to try it once again, though. Saitomoto looking for an opening for the backline. Tozy sieging everyone who steps up. Look at that Pyro Prison covering so much space here. As once again, this doorway, it's very hard to play into a Human Torch with that, but Crisis is already taken down again. Saitomoto is focused down, will escape, but the presence on the board is gone.
LowNine are boarding up ultimates. They're not committing ultimates as of yet, so they will be coming to this next fight with all of their team having them. The problem is that they're not forcing ultimates from All Business either. These fights have been just shut down immediately. The defenders have had no reason to overcommit, and with the picks coming over onto the Vanguard line, All Business are just going to drive this fight even further.
Jerky trying to read into the duel, but Tuzi isn't taking a single hit. Here comes the Supernova from Jerky to try and create an opening as they push on, sieging with those fire tornadoes, but their team is a little bit further behind. Saitomoto looking for the dive freedom charge to hold them at the line, fade of both worlds. It's such a staggered push right now from the side of LowNine, but they're still trying to make it happen. Crisis is sniped again during the opening animation for that Dance of the Butterflies. All Business pushing them back. Meteoram will take them. It's a double. Is this the opportunity for LowNine?
There should be, but Tuzi is still up, and so is Toot. Psionic Seduction comes on through. It doesn't matter if LowNine can look at the torch. They're silenced, they're taunted, they're forced to run towards the hammer, and no one looks at Tuzi. He doesn't need a supernova, he's a supernova of his own.
Thornal coming back in for the reset to give LowNine another chance with a minute left to go. Jerky swapping up to that, so they're triple Vanguard right now, and they finally get Tuzi with Jerky calling the levitation to get up to the high ground and take them down. Counter portal to try and re-engage from 2-2 and also blocking off the spawn room here.
Saintimoto is going to try to just push on through. They're able to take down the Strange. Welsh Mania on the Captain America could potentially play the stall game and disrupt LowNine picking up this point. But the teleporter has been removed from play, and finally LowNine will be able to pick up A. But my goodness, what a difference between two teams in comparison of ease of picking it up.
But we have seen LowNine be in a position before where it looked like they were getting outplayed by All Business, and they brought it back in that first map. Can they repeat the success? They've got the dive. If they can find angles, if they can find targets and avoid getting picked up by that Emma, they may be able to try and push on in. But time is not on their side, because even if they do push in, the overtime is going to be extremely in favor of All Business.
Yeah, Saintimoto can't commit this Venom ultimate either until Gonski has the Fate of both worlds to give it that extra little bit of oomph with the 40% damage boost. Now that it's in play, but the Venoms are ready for us to burn that shield, and he doesn't want to commit the dive until the Psylocke's ready to come on through. The Dance of the Butterflies gets lined up with the Venom ultimate, and All Business are losing players in the back line.
Crisis has finally activated like a sleeper agent in the backline with Saintimoto. They clean out All Business. It's a team wipe, and they are pushing on towards point number 2. They just need to try and hold these doors.
It's not going to be a clean sweep though. Invis Boundary can still get pressured out, as All Business have tried to have the damage to punch through it, layering both the Punisher and the Torch ultimates at the same time. Jerky is going to try and cut off All Business's angles in the recontest, forces out the Freedom Charge from the side of Welsh Mania. There's the Invis Boundary, there's the final judgment. Everyone from LowNine playing outside of that Invis Boundary is potentially vulnerable, but they're able to just push themselves right into the center of it and have the sustainability to survive the Punisher and take Tuzi down before he can commit the Supernova to have the damage to punch through.
LowNine are starting to believe. They push on through. The cart keeps moving. Tuzi's on their way back, but does not want to step out before their team arrives. Nos has realized that this is not going to go in their favor. They're going to back up, understanding point 2 belongs to LowNine. There's a huge time difference, but you need to be in it to win it. LowNine need this 3rd spot, and they're now pushing in.
Time isn't the only thing that's different between these two teams, though. The ultimates are heavily in favor of All Business, as is the poke positions. LowNine are going to have to rely on Crisis yet again, jumping into the backline with Saintimoto on that Venom to open things up, forces the Invis Boundary. Everyone from All Business is now going to have to play inside this AoE, or else they lose the healing effect, as Tuzi understands the space that LowNine could pick up from the back of it and goes in with the Supernova, forcing so much space away from LowNine's players. The next time the fight begins, Crisis is going to have the ultimate, but are his team going to be in position to actually follow him up?
Crisis on the flank, consistently trying to be annoying. Onto Tuzi, Dance of the Butterfly on the Venom, but they don't find the target, having to turn their attention onto the Emma. And while it's still elimination, that was a big ultimate to burn, as we do see Jerky trying to zone away with their own Supernova, chasing up to Welsh Mania, which they will pick up. They're starting to stagger All Business, creeping up towards that final room. Final judgment at the ready for Slowpo with the Psionic Seduction. Wolver needs to make sure that they are not taken down, as they're going to be the main counter tool to this.
2-2 has the Psionic Seduction. If you can manage to commit it and connect onto the strategist, it doesn't matter if they've got defensive ultimates. Slowpoke can still find the pick potential as Crisis goes for the dive. No Dance of the Butterflies. It's just distraction tactics to get Saintimoto into play. Invis Boundary has been able to build up out onto the point it goes. Slowpoke trying to find the damage for it. Won't be able to find anything, but Invis Boundary falls. And All Business still have ultimates to play with. Welsh Mania with the Freedom Charge utilizes it to peel for his backline as the full dive is committed from the side of LowNine, and it's a matter of sustainability, a war of attrition. All Business's respawn is right there though, as are the numbers, and it looks like at the very last finish line, LowNine will fall and All Business will hold on.
24 seconds left. There is time for a portal, but they need Saitomono to be on that point, to be up. If preferably, being in the fight would be a preference, but they're getting targeted by Welsh Mania, buying time with 10 seconds remaining. Welsh Mania will back up. They realize that they're going to be needed back on the point as Dracula's castles. The last fight comes down to this. Crisis in the backline for overtime. Onto the point. Portal comes in, and it's going to be an immediate double while Welsh Mania does go down to the dance of the butterfly. And Jerky takes out 2-2, 2-2, but there's no strategists available for LowNine. Everyone got blown up so quickly, meaning it's down to the Vanguards.
2Z on the torch. No one can look at him. The Vanguard's just having to hold their defensives and live a little bit longer. And the torch is on absolute top notch. 2Z just gets so much value. It is going to be a couple of staggers coming on through, but the damage has been done. All Business will be able to cement Central Park in their favor, and they'll be able to win the series 2-1.
So close down there at the end. 2-2, even swapping over to the Venom. Like you said, the spawn door being right there. Fast rollouts reinforced to hold the line. But it was the targeting of 2Z, even using their body to hold the point, but more importantly, focusing down those strategists, keeping everyone off the point, and even changing their focus from the person who's on the cart to the arriving strategists as Luna using their fast movement speed to rush back in. Gonski tried to reinforce in time, but with no ultimate, they just got burst down by that Human Torch. 14 final hits and only getting taken down 4 times.
Yeah, insane plays coming on through from 2Z. Something else to note as well is that TP, the recontest that everyone on the side of LowNine tried to regroup around, that got disrupted entirely because 2Z threw a supernova into the mix. Everyone came through the strange portal immediately into Torch Ultimate. Like, there was so much you can see here in the replays. Just the forward thinking of 2Z to be able to punish things like the Invis boundary and how static it is in comparison to a Fate of Both Worlds. We would see that he would literally, every single time Invis boundary came out, Supernova would just cover the entire area of effect of it, and it meant that LowNine just didn't get to utilize what should be a defensive, allowing them to survive and try and turn the fight within the next 8 seconds. Here you go, you can see right here. Invis boundary, Supernova, just fully cutting on off the disengagement angle. No opportunity for LowNine to live in the Invis boundary, hold on to their resources, and then plan in those 8 seconds into the next stage of the fight. It was just constant pressure, overwhelming pressure that they were just never able to eclipse.
They staggered effectively, they pressured effectively, and you can see the attention was swapped. They did try to turn onto this Human Torch, and while it must have been extremely satisfying for Jerky to use the Cape of Levitation to get up and just literally hit 2Z in the face as Doctor Strange, there's only so much pressure you can put on when you're using 2 to 3 people every time to try and target a character who already gets bonus help from Flaming Meteor and has basically the pocket healing of Snost, always keeping them up. 2Z, once again, showing how strong this torch can be in the right hands.
Yeah, there was a little bit of target focus difference as well coming through from LowNine. They tried to target the torch, and then they started trying to focus down the backline, understanding that the torch was only so strong because of the amount of resources that were being put into him. That was those moments where we saw in terms of like point B, both the Psylocke and the Venom overlapping their ultimates, instantly hitting both of the strategists, making sure that there's no Invis woman. They can't just keep using Guardian Shield to give 2Z not just cover to play around, but also healing effect that the Guardian Shield provides in its radius, which is absolutely insane. The amount of value, the synergy that you have. There's no surprise that those two are siblings, because the gameplay and the kits of the Fantastic Four very much designed to prop each other up. So when Torch is in play, Invis Woman makes him that much stronger, and it did work on B. The problem was when you got to C, Respawn's being right there, ultimates having been burned out already, and then also the fact that there's an inside room that 2Z is able to play around with, where you have to hard commit your players into just to be able to see even a little pixel of that Torch's hitbox in comparison to the Torch who just gets to play, even when we were looking at 2Z's positioning on C, super high, pressed into that corner between a Guardian Shield as well. Nothing is touching him in that position.
And Crisis was attempting to adjust to this. They were sneaking through with the Psionic Stealth, attempting to get into the backline, but we mentioned it, we're just going to keep going on about it because it is so important. The pocket support of that Invisible Woman, just constantly keeping them up, having that fantastic force to keep you sustained if there's no one there at the time, which meant that Crisis did have to focus on other people for a lot. Like you said, they were trying to focus onto that Invisible Woman, but they're right at the spawn. They could back away, they could reset, they could regroup. It just did not find the stuff that they actually needed once you were into that point number 3.
Yeah, and even when you take out the strategists, the thing about Torch and Ultron is that they're incredibly hard to actually hit because they just like start strafing and their hitbox changes entirely. So the chances of you actually being able to take that Torch down before the strategist comes right back up, chances are you might find the pick, but Tuzi would be able to make it a trade. And at that point, the attacking team are so far away from their respawns. Every single trade is so much worse in terms of a currency exchange in comparison to the defenders because of the amount of time it takes for an attacking player to traipse all the way back from their spawn into the fight, however close you are to the finish line.
It's not over for these teams, obviously. All Business, they are moving on in the upper bracket, so they are in for much better chance of qualifying for those playoffs. LowNine, though, they are in the lower bracket. They still have an opportunity to try and earn their spot back here, and they just took a game off of a team like All Business, the MRC-invited team that just played that well. LowNine should be commended for that, but the victory is a well-deserved one for All Business, just because they did play better, they drafted effectively, and they were able to control that map so beautifully.
Yeah, I would definitely expect, though, that a lot of these teams, whoever does end up matching against LowNine, Captain America first ban. 100%. 100% is going to be Captain America. If you have Captain America in your pocket, take a map away from All Business. You don't want to have to deal with that Captain America. And I think for LowNine now, they get a little bit of an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and sort of look at that composition and think, okay, if the Captain America does get taken away from us because of the ban system, what is the go-to composition afterwards? Like, what do we still win with? Because relying on one specific hero when there are so many bans that come into play in this tournament format is never going to let you go far. Like, you have to be so versatile in terms of hero pool.
They tried to adjust it as they went on. They brought out their own Torch. They weren't trying to deal with it, but like you already mentioned with Saint Tomoto, they were putting on a lot of pressure with this Venom, but it felt less impactful than the Captain America. Even though they were able to dive in, get out without getting taken out a lot of times, they weren't as sticky. They weren't as consistent. It was very much an in, wait, out, as opposed to a I'm here and I'm going to stay here until I get bored.
Yeah, I mean, the second that the Venom shows up, if Cloak and Dagger is in play, you're just going to get blinded, you're going to get vulnerable, and you're going to go down immediately. A lot of the time, too, one of the problems that was starting to occur on Central Park was that the shield, the E on the Venom, was actually being forced before the dive could be committed. So that's also going to be able to eat into the amount of time that you can commit to that dive, plus the fact that All Business were doing a very good job of just pulling their backline further and further back, so that when the Venom committed in, even if you had Jerky on that Torch, go for the commitment at the same time, they wouldn't find the picks, and a lot of the time they would actually lose one of the players because Torch having to go for that aggressive a play where he literally dives into the backline puts himself in a very vulnerable position, because all of a sudden you go from a hero who likes to play super far away from the action where you can get poked down, but as long as you play around cover and Guardian Shield, relatively hard to take down, suddenly you're in melee range, and that becomes really problematic when you have things like Emma, and she just hits diamond form, grabs you, throws you into the wall, and wipes her hands off you.
We're just waiting to see if we can get an interview right now, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into our next series, which is going to be Team Peps versus Yoikanda, so make sure that you stick around for that. We're very excited for it. But in this case, the question is, how would you have adjusted in draft? That is the first stage. We saw the Wolverine ban at the end. Is that still the choice? How do you deal with this Torch? Is that the target they should have banned here?
I feel you probably want to either take the Torch away or take the Invis away, because we saw that Torch was problematic on his own. It was being run without the Invis on Yggdrasil at certain points before, but it became so much stronger when Invis was coming into the mix.
And we do, in fact, have an interview. We have Toot Toot here from the side of All Business. For starters, incredible play. The aggression that you were able to put onto that backline was consistently terrifying.
It's actually not Toot Toot, by the way.
Oh no!
It's lost. We had some issues, so I had to jump in last second.
Apologize, we've been deceived. Well, who do we have the pleasure of?
Zinost or Znost, I don't really care how it's pronounced. The support player.
Okay.
The one who played in this.
Lovely to meet you. And actually, it's wonderful that we get to talk to the strategist lineup, because we were talking about Tuzi and how much resources he was getting from the backline. Talk us through a little bit in terms of the resource management. Like, what does it take as a strategist player to be able to keep a torch alive and doing that well?
With our specific team comp where we had Luna and Invis, it wasn't that difficult because he would have the Snowflake and he would have the Invis team up, and I would just have to give him a shield every once in a while, and he calls out for us if he gets focused or if he wants to go into a fight. So we actually had a comp that allowed him to do what he does, and he's really good at what he does.
It really was, and it did show. But let's jump back to the first game where you guys got a huge amount of momentum early on, but then immediately after that started batting out the Captain America. Were you guys prepared for it? Asaitamoto is quite a well-known cap, and it did slip through the ban phase.
We were actually prepared for it. We've been saying the whole week that we want to get rid of the captain, but then they first saved it. And then our second plan was supposed to be to get rid of the Psylocke so we don't have Captain Psylocke and can't dive us as much. But we kind of got lost in the draft at the end. We were a bit nervous in the first game. So then we messed up our draft. And then second game we realized that he was really that good as captain, so we decided to give him the respect ban.
So that was looking at you approaching the bans. In terms of that second game and then the third game as well, were you anticipating the bans that came through from their end? Did you think that the torch would be taken off of the table and potentially Tuzi would be able to play something like either the Star-Lord or the Psylocke instead?
We did expect the torch ban, but kind of surprised that they did ban the Wolverine instead again. I guess Loppo did traumatize him in the first game we played.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every single Vanguard player, like, they get beaten by Wolverine once, and just immediately after every single ban phase, they're telling their team, ban Wolverine.
Yeah. That is something that I can very much understand.
So my question for you is, obviously you guys came third in the Marvel Rivals Championship for Season 1, but after that, you were one of the teams that entered a little less tournament-wise compared to some of the others. What is your practice schedule like leading into Ignite once you had that invite?
We did around 3 to 2 hours of scrims for 5 days a week, and then this last week we upped that to 4 hours of scrims a day because it is the week leading up towards the tournament. And we tried out a lot in the previous couple of weeks, and then this last week we kind of brought everything together and had our draft ready, and now we're confident that we can do well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the win. Absolutely love getting to see All Business back in the driver's seat, and best of luck with your next couple of matches.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are getting set up for our next series, which, as we already mentioned, is going to be Team Peps versus Yoinkanda. That is a heck of a match. This is another one where it could go very excitedly if Team Peps have been in the hyperbolic time chamber.
I mean, this is one that I'm not going to lie. If it doesn't go 3 maps, I'm going to be incredibly disappointed. Peps have changed how esports and Marvel Rivals gets played, so I cannot wait to see what they're working on, and we'll be seeing it in just a little bit as we can have a look and see how that last game is going to be impacting those standings, as we now know that All Business were able to take the win 2 versus 1 against LowNine, and we get to see that last game of the day is going to determine who they're facing up against next.
Zero Tenacity versus